People were starting to say it's an East Coast, West Coast rivalry because it was people that's trying to make money. It was true people trying to make careers. It was people trying to get famous. Just that I don't want to be involved in the stuff where it's negative stuff.
Hi, how do you do?
I need to talk to him.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Could everything we thought we knew about Justin Combs be a lie? Suge Knight has just dropped a bombshell that's sending aftershocks through the hip-hop world, hinting that Justin might not even be Diddy's biological son. And the name that keeps surfacing in the shadows of this story, Anthony Wolf Jones. For years, Wolf was the silent sentinel at Diddy's side, a loyal bodyguard, a streetwise advisor, and, according to a growing chorus of whispers, a man with far more personal ties to the Combs family than anyone dared to admit.
Do you think that Diddy is actually Justin's father?
I wasn't there, but
We've all seen the photos, the side-by-sides, the narrowed eyes and raised eyebrows, from the sharp jawlines to the build, the bone structure, even the way they both carry themselves in candid shots. There's an eerie resemblance between Justin and the late Wolf Jones that's become impossible to ignore. It isn't just wishful tabloid imagination anymore. Online forums have exploded with side-by-side comparisons. Facial recognition enthusiasts and digital sleuths are dissecting frame-by-frame footage, claiming the similarity goes beyond coincidence. And now, with Suge Knight stirring the pot from his prison cell, people are beginning to ask questions they've been afraid to voice for decades. But this isn't just about who Justin looks like, it's about who was erased. After Wolf's violent and sudden demise in Atlanta back in 2003, his name disappeared from the narrative, almost as if it had been scrubbed clean. No memorials in the press, no tribute posts, and when Justin emerged as Diddy's heir apparent in the late 2000s, there was zero mention of Wolf ever being a part of that story. Yet, according to Suge, who knew both men intimately, the tension between Diddy and Wolf ran far deeper than any bodyguard-client relationship. Suge's account of that fateful night in Atlanta, when his own best friend Big Jake was gunned down, allegedly by Wolf, paints Wolf not as a background character, but as a central figure in a bloody power struggle that no one wanted to acknowledge.
if you don't mind me asking, right, because I know you and Big Jake was real cool, but I want to ask you, the day he got, can you give me the backstory behind that?
I don't mind at all. By the way, shouts out to Big Jake, you know one of my sons is named after him.
What's more chilling is the timeline. Justin was born in late 1993, and Wolf wasn't just around. He was close to Misa Hylton, Justin's mother, during that exact period. Former Bad Boy insiders have quietly confirmed that Misa and Wolf were often seen together in settings that went beyond professional. And he's gone further, suggesting that Misa and Wolf may have made a pact, one to protect Justin from the volatile, violent world Wolf inhabited. If true, it adds a new layer to the theory that Justin was never meant to know who his father really was. And did he? Perhaps he agreed to play along, or perhaps he was deceived from the very beginning. And then there's Misa herself, the woman at the center of the silence. She's never spoken about the rumors, never acknowledged Wolf's name in relation to Justin. But in recent years, as Diddy's legal empire has begun to crumble, Misa's own voice has started to break through. After Justin's arrest for ADUI in 2023, she launched into a blistering tirade against Diddy's parenting, branding his act bad lifestyle as toxic, and publicly regretting not keeping her son away from that world. She even took direct aim at Combs' enterprises, mocking Diddy's ventures into spirits and nightlife. "Sell something healthy that builds people up. I'm sick of it," she wrote. The rage in her words felt deeper than disappointment, like the eruption of something that had been buried for years.
Now, Misa went into full mama bear mode and tore Diddy up on the internet, claiming that Diddy's act bad lifestyle is leading their son down.
But maybe that fury wasn't just about Justin's arrest. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe it was about the weight of a secret she's carried for 3 decades. Because if Suge Knight is right, and if Wolf really was Justin's father, then Misa Hylton has been living in a web of lies spun not just to protect her son, but to protect an empire. An empire built on image, narrative, control. And now that empire's cracking, and it's cracking fast. Suge Knight has made it clear he's not done talking. In his latest prison podcast, he warned Diddy flat out, "Your life is in danger because you know the secrets." He didn't name names, but the message was crystal. There's a room, there are people, and there are things that went on behind velvet ropes and armed guards that the public was never supposed to know about. Suge claims he knows those secrets too, and if he chooses to open the floodgates, the fallout won't stop at one man's paternity. It could drag in the very foundations of the hip-hop industry, from executives in glass towers to artists still basking in their sanitized legacy.
Well, all due respect to Puffy, you gotta realize one thing. He didn't start off like that. I'm quite sure somebody taught him that. And
That's why Suge's theory about the cover-up is gaining so much traction. He's not just pointing fingers, he's tying knots between bodies, betrayals, and blurred bloodlines. There's a sinister suggestion floating beneath his words, that Diddy may have deliberately wiped Wolf's influence from Justin's life, not just to protect his own reputation, but to preserve the illusion of a dynasty. If Justin was ever publicly linked to Wolf, it wouldn't just rewrite family history, it would expose the fragile scaffolding holding up the Combs brand.
We went to the party at the club. You know, I'm with a bitch dancing, doing what I'm doing, but I still got my eye on Jake. I'm quite sure he still got his eye on me. That's what you do when you out. So I could see by Jake's body language, he was having some words with.
And now the internet is doing what the tabloids only hinted at. Gene Deal, Diddy's former bodyguard, isn't exactly helping matters. When asked directly about the rumors, he didn't deny them. He simply said, "I wasn't there, but yeah, people say Justin looks like Wolf." That pause, that silence. It was louder than any confirmation. Because the truth doesn't always need to be shouted. Sometimes it's felt in what's not said. The tension isn't just coming from outside either. Diddy's own household has shown cracks. Justin's relationship with his father has reportedly grown cold in recent years, with sources saying he's become more distant, more guarded. And after the LA raids on Diddy's mansions, the sight of Justin being handcuffed and questioned in front of news cameras sent a signal. Whatever's happening behind those gilded gates, it's messy. It's not the polished, aspirational family brand that Diddy once paraded on red carpets. It's a house in disarray, and the shadow of Wolf, long buried, is suddenly looming large. Which brings us back to the night Big Jake was gunned down in Atlanta. Suge swears it was Wolf who pulled the trigger. A fight over a woman, a bathroom brawl that never happened, and then bullets. Jake passed away, Wolf lived. For a while, but even after Wolf's own untimely end, the tension never really dissolved. Suge never forgave, Diddy never addressed, and Justin? He grew up in the aftermath in a world of photo ops, scholarship spotlights, and carefully curated Instagram posts. But what if that world was a stage, built on a lie that only now is coming into the light? And what if, Justin has always wondered, what if, behind the celebrity, the luxury, the cameras, there was a quiet question he never dared ask? What if Diddy, the man he's always called dad, knew the truth from the beginning? What if everyone did? And what if the silence wasn't protection, but control? Because once you start looking at the timeline, at the names, the photos, the outbursts, the eerie resemblance, the pieces begin to snap into place like a crime board in a detective's back room. Wolf was there, Misa was there, and now Suge's voice, gravelly, bitter, but uncannily clear, is reminding us all that in hip-hop, truth is often buried under the bodies of men who got too close to it. And Misa? Her silence may not last much longer.
Damn. How your son look like your best friend?
If Justin Combs isn't Diddy's biological son, then what happens to the image we've been fed for 30 years? The first family of bad boy, built on luxury, legacy, loyalty, suddenly starts to crack under the weight of a paternity question. For a man like Diddy, who spent decades curating his mythos as hip-hop's ultimate mogul, the suggestion that the heir to his throne might not even carry his blood is more than personal, it's potentially catastrophic. We're not just talking about a personal betrayal here, we're talking about the erosion of a billion-dollar empire, one that's already been dragged into courtrooms and dark headlines for months. Justin Combs has been presented as the future of the Combs name, from reality shows to Forbes interviews, football scholarships to branded spirits, but if the foundation is false, what else starts to unravel? Could it be that his entire rise, his corporate involvement, his marketing as the prodigal son, was all built on something that was never actually real? And, more importantly, does he know? Has Justin ever asked the question? Has he ever looked in the mirror and wondered why the reflection staring back didn't quite match the man he was raised to call dad? Recent events suggest the cracks are already showing. The DUI arrest in LA was more than a one-off mistake, it became a spark. And when Misa Hylton, Justin's fiercely protective mother, unleashed her now viral tirade online, it wasn't just about parenting. It was about decades of tension, silence, and resentment, boiling over. "This is where the buck stops," she wrote. And maybe it was, because once the family drama hits Instagram, there's no putting the lid back on. Her pointed words, her allusions to deeper dysfunction, her refusal to protect anyone except her son, all of it reads differently now. Was she speaking from the fury of a mother or the burden of a long-kept secret?
You know, we were very young. Our lives changed just like that, really quickly.
For years, Misa Hylton's public persona has been that of a resilient, fashion-forward force, a pioneer who helped define hip-hop style while quietly co-parenting the son of one of the industry's most powerful figures. But behind the curated Instagram posts and polished red carpet moments, there are growing signs that Misa's journey has been anything but simple. The emotional weight of raising a son under a spotlight while harboring a secret that could unravel his entire identity. isn't something you see in glossy interviews. Her recent online outbursts didn't just sound like frustration, they sounded like exhaustion, like the unraveling of a carefully maintained facade. It's not hard to imagine the tightrope Misa may have walked for decades if she knew or even suspected that Wolf, not Diddy, was Justin's biological father. She would have been forced to make a choice few parents ever face. Speak up and risk unleashing chaos on a child's life, or stay quiet, and let him grow up with a version of reality that felt safe, stable, and unchallenged. Add to that the immense pressure of co-parenting with a global figure like Diddy, and suddenly silence becomes more than a decision, it becomes survival. But silence comes with consequences. The guilt, the internal conflict, the sleepless nights wondering if the truth will eventually crash through anyway, dragging her son into a storm of questions he never asked for. Misa's Instagram tirades, scattered with pointed jabs, veiled references, and declarations of independence, begin to read like a woman on the edge of a reckoning. Not just with Diddy, but with herself. Her message wasn't just to the world, it was to her own conscience. As speculation builds, it's Misa's absence from the conversation that speaks loudest. Unlike Diddy, who has legal teams and crisis managers, or Suge, who relishes the chaos, Misa remains largely unshielded. And that vulnerability, that emotional rawness, may be the most telling piece of the puzzle. Because while the media dissects timelines and paternity theories, what's often overlooked is the reality of a mother trying to hold her son's world together, even if that means keeping it built on a lie.
What was said and what was done to Puffy, he know and I know what was done. I get in a limo, when the ambulance come, Jake was saying he was straight, but he couldn't feel his legs. We get to the hospital.
And then there's Suge, a man with nothing to lose, already buried beneath a 28-year sentence, yet suddenly choosing now to speak. Why? Why dredge up Justin's name, hint at secrets about Misa and Wolf, and publicly dare Diddy to respond? Is it revenge? Is it a warning? Or is it leverage? A shot across the bow from a man who knows exactly where the bodies are buried. We've seen this playbook before. Suge doesn't speak unless he wants someone to feel it. And right now, with Diddy facing federal pressure, a wave of civil lawsuits, and the full weight of the internet turning against him, the timing feels deliberate, calculated, almost surgical. Suge Knight once ruled the West Coast the same way Diddy ruled the East. Their beef wasn't just personal, it was political. Power, respect, territory. And Wolf Jones? He was caught in the middle. Allegedly, the man who pulled the trigger on Big Jake, Suge's best friend. Allegedly, the man who once kept Diddy alive in rooms full of sharks. And now, decades later, rumors swirl that he may have left behind more than just a legacy of loyalty. He may have left a son, one who grew up under another man's name, wearing another man's chain. If Suge really knows what happened between Misa and Wolf, this may only be the beginning of what he's prepared to unleash.
Says that he had his son bring girls over to the parties, usually underage girls.
There are whispers now, quiet, cold, and persistent, that Wolf's demise in Atlanta wasn't just a tragic end to a club dispute, but a silencing. That his absence made room for a narrative that was easier to manage, easier to control. One former security insider claimed, off record, that Wolf knew too much, he was too close, he was there for all of it. If that's true, and Wolf had even a shred of parental connection to Justin, then his presence would have complicated everything. His voice might have told a version of history that didn't serve the empire. And that brings us back to the raids. Homeland Security, seized footage, laptops, hotel stockpiles. If Diddy is sitting on a mountain of undisclosed behavior, if even half the lawsuits are proven true, then public sympathy isn't coming back. Which is why the timing of Suge's strike matters. Because when a man is already bleeding, that's when rivals pounce. Suge knows Diddy's world is collapsing. The lawsuits, the raids, the leaked footage. And by dragging Justin into it, by cracking open the door to a long-buried question about identity, Suge is doing more than gossiping. He's shaking the last stable pillar left, Diddy's family.
We play by the rules. You got a lot of people playing both sides of the fence. But at the same time, if your name's Suge Knight, the authorities never gonna treat you fair. My whole case in this case wasn't treated fair.
Justin has always been the poster boy for legacy. Firstborn, the golden child. His birthday parties were televised, his college milestones broadcast, his face on Ciroc ads, DeLeon bottles, walking the carpets like royalty. But what if he's not the crown prince? What if behind the diamonds and branding lies a young man caught in a web of deception, spun before he could even walk? And what happens when that young man starts digging? Because it's not just about the past. It's about the present, the way Justin's been moving lately, the way he's stayed quiet, distant, almost guarded. Sources say he's been off the grid since his arrest, avoiding events, stepping back from his father's spotlight. And some close to the situation are starting to wonder if he's finally asking questions, not just about the case, but about himself. And if he does, if Justin demands answers, not in court, but at the dinner table, what happens next? Does Diddy tell him the truth? Does Misa come clean? Or does the silence continue like it always has, wrapped in contracts, guarded by NDAs, framed with smiling photos and old birthday clips? The walls are closing in, and this time, no stylist, no reality show, no platinum plaque can fix it. The speculation isn't dying down. It's spreading. Every headline, every TikTok theory, every blurred-out courtroom sketch, they're all circling the same core question. Who is Justin Combs really?
I'm like, he's the oddball. And I know they got different moms, so I get it.
Right.
But I'm like, I don't know about that one.
So now we ask you, if Suge Knight is right, if Justin Combs was never Diddy's biological son, what happens to everything? The name, the legacy, the brand, the loyalty, the billions. Does it all collapse? Or has the truth been staring us in the face this whole time, hiding behind a pair of designer shades? Let us know what you think in the comments. Is this the final crack in Diddy's empire, or just another smokescreen in hip-hop's most twisted saga? Subscribe for the next chapter, because trust us, the next bomb hasn't dropped yet. Stay sharp, stay watching. We're just getting started.